Greetings, everybody. Rodamon here. Thank you for tuning in to the very first episode of a new series playing Against the Storm. This is the first of a 5-part series, and in this episode, I'll be playing the tutorial. Against the Storm is a dark fantasy city builder. It's also a bit of a roguelike, with a lot of randomized RNG elements, where you rebuild a civilization in the face of apocalyptic ruins. You are, or I am in this case, the Queen's Viceroy, so sort of like a governor, leading humans, beavers, lizards, and harpies to reclaim the wilderness, and also to try to secure a future for civilization's last survivors. Right off the start, I am going to be doing the cinematic intro.
The world is plagued by the Blight Storm, a vile cycle of destruction ravaging everything in its path. The only safe haven is the smoldering city where the mysterious scorched queen reigns. You are one of her viceroys, a pioneer sent into the wilds, tasked with establishing new settlements and acquiring valuable resources for the crown. Your goal is to help rebuild the smoldering city and secure the future of the Queen's subjects.
Alright. Neglecting your village will increase the Queen's impatience and bring her wrath upon you. Fulfilling your duties will increase the town's reputation, unlock new buildings, and eventually bring you to victory. Now pick a new blueprint. Click on the crown icon below. Each expedition starts with only a few essential blueprints. More will be given to you as you gain reputation points. Now click the woodcutter's camp. Press space to resume. Build a woodcutter's camp and explore the forest. You have to keep the fires going at all times. So down here, let me explain the UI just a little bit so that you guys can know what's up more than what the tutorial will cover. So these bars here is your reputation and your impatience. When the impatience reaches maximum, you lose, and when it reaches full reputation, you win. Each of these little blue buttons is when you get a new blueprint as your reputation grows. On the top left, you have... There's only 3 of 4 species here, but you have humans, beavers that kind of look like dwarves, and lizards. And then the icons here is the population of humans, 3, how many are free workers, 3, and how many are homeless, 3. And that is true for almost all of it. It's 3 through 3, 3 through 3, 3, 2, 3. At the top, you have food, which can be broken down into different subgroups. You have building materials, which is just parts. Parts are a basic material that allows you to set up initial structures. And then what is flammable? Coal and wood, and also exploration, like simple tools. You can always read more on the right. I'm not going to go deep depth into the tutorial unless it's a mechanic that I'm not fully expertise on. So let's go ahead and listen to what they said. Build a woodcutter's camp. So the green radius is how far the woodcutters can cut trees. One thing to note, they deliver the goods to this warehouse or other warehouses that you end up building. So in order to cut wood efficiently, you want to lay it out in such a way that your woodcutters don't have to travel very far. So I'm going to put it there, and then I'm going to have a road connect it. And while I'm going through the tutorial, I won't be answering any specific questions, but once the tutorial's done, you'll be free. I'll be more able to answer questions. I'm just going to plow through this tutorial for you all. So, I do have orders, and these are Queen's orders, and fulfilling them will bring me reputation, and neglecting them will not. So this here is the first order, which is to build 2 woodcutters camps and to harvest 10 wood. And the rewards is that it will reward me 3 beavers, and woodcutters camps will be more productive. And then also, I gain reputation. So let's build a second camp, and I'm going to put this one here. Little Warcraft 3 style vibes? Yeah, I can see that. Absolutely. So beavers are the most efficient woodcutters. There are two types of synergies. One synergy is that they enjoy the work and it gives them extra resolve, which is kind of like morale. And the other is that they're proficient. So beavers are proficient and they have a 10% chance to produce twice as much. So when possible, put beavers in your woodcutters. And then I'm going to mark some trees to be cut. And you can either mark trees or remove trees from marking. And there's some other advanced controls, but they're locked right now. As you can see, locked for now because of the tutorial. Then the beavers get to work, chopping the trees down. And then if I chop the trees clear into this fog area, that is called a glaive, and it opens up for me. There is advantages to opening up glaives, and there's also dangers. Not all glaives are safe to access, and then also opening up glaives will make the game harder. So a lot of this game is balancing resource exploitation that also ramps up difficulty, and I'll get more into this later. And here's the second woodcutter's camp, so I'm going to employ 3 in there as well, and then mark down some trees to be cut. It's alerting me that too many trees are marked, but I don't really care. Alright, so the order's done, and when the order's done, you can go hit G or go to your orders tab and deliver the order. So I get 3 additional beavers, and woodcutters work faster. The next one is that I cut through the forest to discover 2 glaives, and that I have 5 beavers assigned to woodcutting, and the rewards is humans and meat and reputation. So if I want to cut to the glaives quickly, I'm just going to cut a clear path to get to these glaives, so that I cut down the time that the tutorial takes. Your renown grows. You can now pick one of the available blueprints that the Queen offers you, and shelter. So this will solve homelessness, and I need 1, 2, 3, 4 shelters to be able to house everyone. But then also, the reward for this quest is going to be some additional people, I believe. Yes. So I'm going to do 5 houses, or 5 shelters. Another thing to note is that there's a certain radius around the hearth that I have to build the shelters. I, in playing, very rarely run into issues where there's not enough room around the hearth, but that's just something to note, is that you don't want to prevent yourself from being able to build housing by taking up all the space, so try to build efficiently. So here's the first glaive, and we opened it up, and it has eggs and roots. Smaller glaives will have a little bit of resources, and then larger glaives tend to have challenges. And this will make more sense later on when I get into said challenge. So now that this glaive is opened up, I'm going to tell these woodcutters to, instead of cutting a small path, just to cut whatever they want around their camp. Because I'm no longer trying to access the glaive. Whereas these guys down here are still going straight to the glaive. And over here you can also see the extra effects, the reinforced axes, and you can also see that down here. Reinforced axes. And then, depending on who manages your pyre, the lizard fire keepers are, when they manage the fire, they add to everyone's resolve, meaning everyone's happier. When your humans do it, it lowers the amount of impatience growth that you get, and when dwarves do it, it's fuel efficient. And then harpies allow you to carry more, if I recall. So every species has their own sort of benefit when they're managing a hearth. Just to throw that out there. Alright, so we should be in the second glade soon. Once these woodcutters get through. They are taking their sweet time. Right now what's happening is they're delivering their timber to storage which is why you don't see any of them cutting at the moment, because the wood camp here was full. And now they're going back to cut. All right. Nobody is homeless, and this is the extra house for the additional humans that will join. You can see they're housed in here, and it keeps them a little bit happier. So their morale up here is 19, 14, and 11. Humans are the easiest to keep happy, and harpies and lizards are the most difficult. And each race has their own specialties and their own desires. So like humans really like to work in a brewery, whereas beavers like to they like to do engineering. Lizards like to be in warm environments and produce meat and stuff like that. So here we go. I cut into the second glaive, so we'll complete this, and the next one is to get a foraging camp and then to forage for vegetables. And the reward is that foraging becomes more efficient. So there we go, foraging camp. And we'll plop this right next to where the broccoli cabbage, I don't know what it is. And then in this glaive, we found an herbalist camp. And we have the opportunity to either rebuild the herbalist camp or to salvage it, and then whatever we end up doing, we have to send 6 wood to do it. In this case, I'm just going to salvage it. You know, I'll rebuild it. I don't really need the pottery, the roots, I don't think. And this one has mushrooms and berries, which can only be collected by an herbalist camp, as you can see. So it's just another way to gain food. All right, now that this camp is up, I'm going to put humans in it, because humans are really good at farming and foraging. They have a specialization bonus. And once we have 5 vegetables, I will have completed that. And then also, these woodcutters now that the path is cleared, can cut whatever they want. Alright, gonna do ×3 speed to get this finished up faster. And these tutorials are just informing you about how exploration works, cutting into a glaive, and then the glaive events, which is sometimes challenging. So if you take a look here, there is a skull, and this is a dangerous glaive, meaning that it has more room to build, it has more resources, but it also has some sort of challenge to overcome. And then there is such a thing as a very dangerous glaive, but one does not exist on the tutorial map. Alright, so that's done. Next up, stonecutter camp and 5 clay. Got it. So it's going to give me a stonecutter. Build that next to the clay here. Get that built. And then in this case, because I have so much wood, I am going to remove 2 of the beavers from the woodcutters. You know what? I have so many extra people. The tutorial just throws people at me. So there we go. Now we have the clay being harvested. You didn't even notice the time speed? Yeah, the time speed is nice. It's a little noisy clicking it constantly. All right, so that one's done. Next up, harvesting camp. So it will unlock a harvester for me. And we're going to harvest plant fibers, which makes fabrics. Like, it's a prerequisite to make stuff like clothing. And the specialty to clothing would be the harpies. The harpies really like to work clothing, textile type work.
Yeah.
All right. I don't have anyone in the herbalist camp. I guess I could throw people in there. The specialization bonus here is alchemy, so that would also be good for harpies. I don't have any in this tutorial, so it doesn't really matter who I employ there. One thing to note is now I have every single person in the colony employed, which means there are no builders. So if I want something built, I have to fire someone from somewhere else. All right, the harvester's camp is done. And the next is building a crude workstation. And this gets into work efficiencies, which I'll explain briefly. So there are a whole lot of different types of workstations that all offer different benefits. The crude workstation works very inefficiently, and there's this little red icon here that I know is slightly covered up. But the little red icon here that indicates that it's not a particularly efficient work station. So if you can help it, don't use it. So in other words, the crude workstation will make planks, but a lumber mill will make it a lot more efficiently. So this is a 8-to-2 ratio, whereas a lumber mill is something like a 5-to-8 ratio. Massively different. And there are some newcomers, so I can accept some new people. I'm not going to bother because I don't need them for this tutorial, but let's get some beavers making materials in here. So another thing is, normally it's not locked here, and you can set production limits, which is really smart to do. Because, for instance, your hearth burns wood, and if you turn all of your wood into planks, you could run out of fuel and lose. So it's definitely in your best interest to make sure that you use work limits when appropriate. For this tutorial, it's locked and it doesn't matter, but in the real game it will. We're almost out of clearance. And I think the tutorial will tell me about these storms here. So during the storm phase, there's a lot of malices that get applied to your colony, making it more difficult to survive, that are driven off of the hostility of the forest. So the higher your hostility is, the more morale penalizing it becomes. And then there's also sometimes other penalties as well. So this one is Looming Darkness, which lowers the global resolve by 4. But on harder difficulties and later in the game, this malice can be incredibly bad, like -50 instead of -4. So you have to manage your hostility of the forest levels wisely. This is a cornerstone. No one can weather the storm alone. The Queen offers you a cornerstone that will lay the foundation for your town's prosperity. Choose wisely, as you won't be able to change it. So, periodically you are given, when you survive the storm, the ability to pick one of 2 or multiple bonuses, because eventually you get more than just one choice. Sometimes you only have one choice. It really depends on some modifiers. But in this case, I'm going to do carpentry tools, or carpenter's tools, to be able to make things in the crude workstation faster, because that's what's holding up my orders right now. And then you can see the bonus down here, or alternatively, if we go to the crude workstation, here. Okay, the order is ready to complete. And last but not least, it wants me to go to a dangerous glade. So let's do that. Woodcutter, I'll stick here. Cut a very thin path. And we should be there in no time. Wondering if I can't shove another woodcutter in here, but no, not really. Just to make it faster. There they go. So the game is roguelike because in normal play, the blueprints that you're offered here will be a little random. And the randomness will change how you develop each individual city that you build. Okay, we're almost there. So some games you might rely on farming and grain, and then other games you might rely on hunting and foraging. You might go the route of mining, or maybe use a kiln to turn wood into coal. Everything changes depending on the blueprints that you're offered and the path that you take. So here we go. Here is in a dangerous glade, and this danger is going to kill 3 random villagers periodically. And in order to shut this down, I have to assign people to go bring it goods to dismantle it. So in this case, I am going to fire my beavers, put all 3 beavers on the ancient shrine, pick the materials that I want to dismantle it, because there's a choice here. And it also requires 10 simple tools. I have 40, and we will investigate. And then in about 30 seconds, 3 people at random will die. And there's really no way to stop that. This is a rigged event. Generally, when you play, you might be able to get away disabling a dangerous event before it triggers. But often it will trigger once, I think on average. It just depends on how fast you are. And in this case, it's pretty far away. Oh, here we go. 3 random are about to get got. 1, 2, and 3. Luckily, I can just go bloop, and it prints up some more people. So then once we are finished bringing all the wood, the bricks, and the simple tools, it will take 30 seconds of investigation, and as a reward, we are given 1 ancient tablet. It's also worth noting that the queen does not like us messing with dangerous glades, so there's often an impatience penalty for doing it. Often it's still worth doing, but you just don't want your patience to max out. So now that we have dismantled the glade, it won't be killing anyone anymore, and then one of my beavers is carrying the tablet back to storage, and that last order is complete. Once you win, you are often unlocking certain technologies, buildings, etc. You're given food or other resources to use for upgrading, and you're also given a level. And this will make sense in a second. And there's, I believe, just one more tutorial. Yeah, she doesn't like us messing with the glades even when she asks us to. I know, it's strange. So press any key to start. Villagers with low resolve will start leaving, increasing the queen's impatience. Keeping resolve exceptionally high will grant passive reputation over time. Satisfying your villagers' needs with complex food, homes, and services will increase the resolve. Each species has a different mix of needs. It's hard to please everyone all the time. Farmers can plant only on farm fields, and those can only be built on fertile soil. Crops are planted in the first season, drizzle, then harvested during the second, clearance. Build a farm, harvest grain, and serve some ale in a tavern. Okay, so we are going to get a farm down. One of the things about placing a farm, as you might notice, I can't get all of the potential farm tiles lit up by one farm. So I'm going to have to forgo some of the fertile tiles. And there's really nothing to... I mean, you could, hypothetically, set up 2 separate farms, but in my humble opinion, that is not worth doing. Just have one farm and cover up some of the fertile zones. And then what I'm going to do is I'm also going to have woodcutters camp. Here, let me move this here. I'm going to have a woodcutters camp to try to cut down some of the trees in the corner there to free up some even more of the fertile tiles. So let's go ahead and set up farm fields. They're free. They don't require resources, just labor. And here is the objective. Get a small farm and 6 farm fields. Very easy to do. And humans are the best at farming, so I'll employ them. Alright, beavers. Time to cut down some trees. And I'm just going to tag the single tree that is covering the corner there so that I can use that for the farm field as well. And now that that's cut, I'm going to move the beavers down here because there's another farm, potential farm here that is significantly covered up by trees. So I can open up access. Okay, so that one's done. The next is get a woodcutter's camp and shelters. So one more woodcutter's camp than I currently have. I'm going to put this, I guess here. And then it also wants me to get 2 shelters, but I'd prefer to have no one homeless if I can help it. So I will shelter everyone. I don't have houses unlocked though. There we go. Just looking for it. Okay. Here is our cornerstone. I can get free barrels delivered to me, which would be really good if I'm trying to make ale or reinforced tools to be able to produce more in the farm. I'm going to go with barrels. Free barrels is probably better than larger yield on farms because I can always just farm more. Whereas I'm not going to be... Oh, and also, let's tell my farmers to do only grain, right? We're trying to make beer, so I'm not going to worry about vegetables. I don't want to... I have a bunch of starting food, yeah, so I'm not going to worry about vegetables. You like that you can move buildings? Not all buildings can be moved. Larger buildings can't, but these small buildings can. And for free. Or for the cost. It depends on your difficulty. For free or for low cost. Okay, this one's done. Next up, get a trapper's camp and some meat. So it's going to give me a trapper's camp here. And there are some things to trap over here. Some brood mothers. Another thing to note, and I haven't pointed this out yet, is a lot of resources will have a secondary yield. So for instance, these lush trees, if I can mouse over them again, will also yield resin and plant fiber and sometimes eggs. Or these slick shell brood mothers will yield meat and then 40% of the time also leather. So there is some bonus resources that you can get depending on the nodes that you're harvesting. So not all trees are the same. On some maps, there will even be like 3 or 4 different species of tree, and you can pick and choose which one you think will yield you the extra bonus resources that you need most. So Trapper's Camp should be hiring out lizards, because that's what they're good at. So I'm going to fire one of the lumberjacking lizards and hire them as a trapper instead. And then I'm also going to run a road out there, just because the dirt roads are free and they speed you up 5%. And that will help them get meat back to their trap camp a little faster. I'm going to cherry pick the trees I want cut here so that we can free up more of the farm tile. Although I doubt I'm actually going to be required to get a second farm here for the goal. It's not that difficult of a goal. Okay, that one's done. Oops, wrong button. Getting some rewards. Next up, smokehouse. So they want me to make smoked jerky, which is a food that lizards particularly like. So here's a smokehouse, and these types of larger buildings are the ones that do not move. So once you place them, you'd have to destroy them to move them again. Just to make that clear. Alright, so let's get a smokehouse. And this costs advanced resources, so it costs planks and fabric. So if I take a look up here in my building materials, I do have some planks and fabric stockpiled already from rewards or whatever I started with. But if I'm going to be making more of that kind of stuff, I might want another crude workstation to be able to make planks and fabric and bricks. And yeah, give me some lizards. 3 of those lizards are homeless. Get another shelter. Alright, putting the lizards to work in the smokehouse. And then over here, we can pick the resources that I want to use. So I'm not going to smoke the insects, I'm going to smoke the meat. And I'm going to smoke it with wood, because I have a lot of wood, but you could also pick like coal or something else. It really depends on your limitations. And I'm also going to turn off incense and pottery. It is not required for this tutorial, so I'm not going to bother. So now it wants me to make 20 jerky in the smokehouse, and jerky is a food that lizards like to eat, primarily. So it's going to make them happier over here in the resolve, and you can see the resolve is actually going up from 11 to 12 now that there's a new food available for them that they enjoy. So if you have a specific race that has particularly low morale, one really easy fix would be just to make a certain food that benefits them most. Like biscuits or pie or jerky or whatever it might be, beer, so on and so forth. Now that they've both made jerky, that one's done. Next up, make a brewery. So it's going to give me a brewery, and a brewery uses the grain from your farms to turn it into ale. And as you can see here, I am kind of out of room. So some things I can do is I can move the trap camp. Let's see. I can move the crude workstation that I haven't even stuck anyone in over there. And then the trapper camp. It's going to be inefficient, but I'm going to move them over here. Also, moving it over here puts it within the range of the worm tongue nests. So I'm getting a different type of resource. I'm going to move the woodcutters just out of the way again. And then that frees up room for my brewery. There it is. I'm not even touching the second farm, as you might have noticed. So humans are the ones that really like to brew, so I'll employ some humans, and you can see this worker gains +5 resolve. So you can see the resolve over here going from 19 to 20. Another really good way to make everyone happy is to put them into employment they enjoy. And if you click the individual race icons up here, you can see where people are employed. So for instance, if I want to put another human in the brewery, I can see that this camp here has got a human, and all I have to do to change the employment is right-click and left-click to move them around. And that way you can go like, oh, well, where are my beavers? All my beavers are in my cutting camp, and then I have 2 builder beavers that I can stick in the woodcutter instead. It's just a really very efficient way to make sure that you're min-maxing your stations. So, brewery. I'm going to turn off everything else. And for beer, you remember how I got like the periodic delivery of barrels? Well, that's good, because now I need a lot of barrels in order to make ale. So ale is grain and either pottery made of clay or barrels. And they're going to get brewing. Also in here, I can set a limit. So right now, it wants me to brew 20 ale. So in here, I can go, hey, limit 20. And that way, I don't go way beyond, which is really useful because grain can be used for baking and brewing and all sorts of other things. And you don't want to use all of your grain up making beer. You're definitely going to want to save some left over for like biscuits or pies or whatever else that you might want. Thanks, Callie. Cheers. Ooh, still piping hot. I love it. I did miss some puppy treats. Hey, bud, that one's yours, and Tusk is already gone. Yeah, she's gone. Don't know where she went. Okay, that order is done. Next up, a tavern. So a tavern is a really good morale object. Even if you don't have beer, employing people in your tavern makes others happy. So you can set up a tavern early if you're needing a resolve boon. And this requires bricks and fabric. I might need the fabric, so I'm going to put someone or someone's into the crude workstation here so that I have enough resources. So the limit here, I'm going to say, let's say 10 for each. I already have all the planks delivered to the tavern, but it does need 4 bricks, which I have, but 8 fabric. So I'm hoping that these guys make fabric first. In order to force that, I can change the order to put fabric at the top, and then they'll make fabric because they were otherwise trying to fulfill the planks fulfillment. Queen's Envoy. Let's give me extra grain. So this is every time I produce 25 grain, I get 1 extra grain per harvest. So it's like a feedback loop. I don't really want more people at the moment. Let's brew up to 40. And yeah, we're just waiting on that fabric. So it should be coming right now. I'm also going to allow leather to be used to make fabric, because previously they were just using the plant fiber, and I had a pretty finite amount of plant fiber. There we go. All the resources have been delivered. And now that we have a tavern, I'm going to accept some extra people. So, you have Gleeman's Tales. If you have 3 people employed in this tavern, there will be a +3 global resolve. It does not stack, however. And then here, if you have ale available, there will be leisure services offered. And then if you have training gear available, there will be brawling services fulfilled. And for this, we are looking to provide leisure. So, as long as we have ale available, we'll provide leisure, and then once I hit this leisure goal, that will be done. It is warning me that no builders are available, so I'm going to go ahead and... where do I want to employ? Another woodcutter. Yeah, there's a wide variety of materials that can be processed. Oh! So over here, this is a good example. I am getting 0.08 reputation per minute due to the fact the lizards are happy, and then I'm also getting 0.1 because the humans are happy, because I have satisfied them as more or less as a result of that leisure in the tavern. If you scroll down here, you can see 0.18 reputation per minute. So there's one way to lose, which is more or less, which is essentially maxing out your impatience, but there's kind of 2 ways to win. You can either satisfy the queen by fulfilling orders and quests and the like, or you can just make everyone happy and you'll get the reputation anyway. And there's achievements related to both. I would say satisfying the queen is a little bit easier, because as you complete queen's orders, the impatience lowers. Whereas if you're just going for morale victory, your impatience will grow pretty steadily, so it's a bit of a race. But it is a fun one. So pretty soon here, we should see leisure maxed. And here, let me pull in some more people, that's fine. And we're almost done. Yeah, I'll just keep you employed there, you're happy. Okay, order's done. Next order, to bring the human's resolve up above 25 for 30 seconds. It's instantly done because I've already done it. So complete that. And then lastly, to make pack of provisions. So pack of provisions. Let's see. Let's go with beaver house and then makeshift post. I'm doing the beaver house because the beavers are the least happy in my community. And then the makeshift post is a way to satisfy like trade good orders. And I'm going to raise the priority of this structure so it's built first over the beavers' houses. Because the beavers' houses require a lot of planks, and I don't want the, well, this only requires wood, but I don't want all the resources going to the beavers' housing first. But once the beavers are housed, you should see their resolve going up as well. So 24 to 25. And here's the makeshift post. So I'm going to turn everything off other than provisions. I'll put 2 people to provide provisions. And for here, I will have meat as packaged for provisions because I don't have the other resources. Actually, I don't really have meat. So if I want meat for that, I'm going to fire the lizards that were in the smokehouse that were processing the meat into jerky. And then I am going to let my meat supply... Oh, it doesn't matter. I won anyway. Because of the rep max. So I've unlocked Citadel upgrades, and I'll show you those in a minute. A rain collector, paved roads, herbalist camp, meat specialization, flame amulets, and crowded housing. So I believe, if I recall correctly, this is when the shackles come off and I'm no longer in tutorial. The world is a vast, ever-changing place, and at its heart lies the smoldering city. Your goal as a viceroy is to help rebuild it and secure the future of the Queen's subjects. Use the resources you gathered so far to construct the Obsidian Archive in the Smoldering City. So I can either click the button at the top or on the city, and this is what it looks like. And then there are deeds, which are achievements that give you levels that allow you to access more upgrades, and then there's upgrades. So here's all the upgrades that you can get for your Smoldering City. And the first one they want me to get is the Obsidian Archive. I gain a permanent -2% to the speed at which the Queen's impatience grows, and also, it unlocks deeds. Now that I have that unlocked, I'm level 2, so I have access to both of these two, Obsidian Archive level 2, which is additional Queen's Impatience reduction, and 10% additional Citadel resources whenever I finish a settlement, or Monastery of the Vigilant Flame, which is a 2% burning duration for all types of fuel burned in the hearth, and then I can also embark with stone and clay. I'm going to pick the Obsidian Archive level 2. If I go over to deeds here, you can see the different deeds, which are achievements that give you experience. You don't necessarily, I would say you don't have to like achievement hunt really early game. You're going to get these no matter what you do. But here is the massive jumbo list, and then you can also track them if you want, specifically, you know, if you're trying to achievement hunt. Hey, Tusk. She is back. The world is governed by the eternal Blightstorm cycle. It's almost upon us, so no caravans are allowed to embark. Click the button in the lower right corner of the screen to finish the cycle. So I gathered 20 food and spent 20 food. I unlocked the archive level 1 and level 2 and gained a certain amount of level experience in this cycle. Thank you for tuning in to Against the Storm, which streamed live on Twitch November 4th and November 5th. If you have any feedback or questions for me, let me know in the comments below. If you'd like to catch a live stream of mine, Rodamont.com has my stream schedule and countdown timers to upcoming streams. If you would like to join my gaming community, Rodamont.com also has a link to Discord, as does the description of this video. Thank you so very much for watching. A special thank you to my Patreon patrons, Twitch subscribers, and viewers like you who have made it all the way to the credits. I'll catch you next episode or some upcoming streams. Farewell.